Hey everyone, so this is my Andy Warhol challenge where I taught myself a little bit about Andy Warhol using my internet resources. So let's get started. I learned that Andy Warhol was born Andrew Warhola in the year 1928 in Pittsburgh, and throughout his adolescence he would practice signing his name, and he finally decided to drop the A from his last name, leaving him or calling himself as Andy Warhol. So, as a child, he suffered from a neurological disease called St. Vitus Stance, which repeatedly kept him from attending school regularly. Eventually, after high school, um, he he studied commercial art at Carnegie Institute of Technology, where he graduated from in 1949. Um, After his graduation at Carnegie, he moved to New York, where he began to work as an illustrator for magazines such as Vogue, and pretty soon he became a very high demand illustrator in New York. Also, Andy Warhol is most known for his pop art work. In the 60s, he began to paint daily objects. For example, the painting of the Campbell's tomato soup, as we may famously recognize. Um, I'll post a picture of it on my blog. Also, um, as his fame continued, he began making silk screen prints of famous people in like Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, and Mick Jagger. Um, eventual, uh, Eventually, Warhol opened the Factory in 1962, which was in New York, which was an art studio where he employed art workers to mass produce um, his work, such as prints, posters, and sometimes shoes that he had designed himself. The studio also served as a filmmaking studio where Warhol created a couple bizarre underground films. A couple years later, Warhol faced an assassination scare. He was shot several times by a woman named Valerie Solanas. Solanas worked for him at the factory, and she reportedly said that she did it because Warhol had too much control over her life. So she cracked. And then um, she did seriously wound the artist, but after hours of surgery, his life was saved, and he did have to wear a surgical corset for the remainder of his life. So, um, but he survived. And after the incident, Warhol became more as an entrepreneur. He opened a nightclub, and he started Interview magazine. What I learned was about his personal life. I learned that Warhol used stimulant drugs, and they were very common amongst artists in the 60s, so there was not much of a big surprise. He would use methamphetamines to keep him awake for longer periods of time, so possibly to create more work and to inspire him a little bit more. So he was also very concerned with his appearance. He was under the knife a couple of times to keep his appearance pretty young and to preserve his youth. And he was also known to wear wigs. And I read that he would dye his wigs like strawberry blonde and eventually like silver, and he would dye his wigs and wear a wig. Um, he also had relationships with several men, and some of these men were other artists. Um, but that was a little bit of what I learned. So, overall, Andy Warhol's art was very influential. It broke the lines of what the standards of what fine art was supposed to look like, and now he's known as a pop art icon. So I'll post some of his famous pictures or artwork that I found on the internet on my blog, so you can check that out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.